All right, it's Coach Schumann here, back for another Success for Life podcast with Kevin Keppel, life coach. We're going to talk a little bit about the different ways that you can improve your life, everything from leadership to your health, your wellness, to your workplace, and we'll go dive deep into that, and just things for your own mental health standpoint that you can help to improve yourself. Welcome, Kevin.
Hey, thanks for having me, Coach. Excited to be here with you guys.
It's good to have you. You got a nice calming voice. I'm loud and obnoxious, so it'll work.
Yeah.
It'll work out well. What was I gonna say? So tell everybody your background. Your education, where you came from, and how you really got into life coaching.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I grew up in Dallas. I went to University of North Texas here, graduated with a bachelor's degree in strategic management and entrepreneurship because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, and it sounded like a cool thing to study. And I got out of college, and I did a lot of things that should do, like I should get this job because I should make a bunch of money, and kept finding modicums of success, but I wasn't really happy. And fortunately, I got around a really good coach who helped me see that. And life's too short not to do things you love. So about 10 years ago, I transformed my career into really being more intentional about helping people be more of the things that they wanted to be without feeling like less along the way. And now I own and operate Keppel Coaching, which is my company, and we serve different types of leaders that are looking to move from some sort of chaos into freedom in their lives, and whatever that looks like. And what we do is really help them align with their most authentic, highest self, so they can own and unlock whatever their genius looks like.
So post school, what did you get into right away? What was kind of
Yeah, I was really about having fun, and fun doesn't pay the bills. And so I worked in a bar when I was in college, and I bartended, and then I got into hospitality after college. 'Cause I thought I wanted to open a restaurant, and got into management, and I was got up to be like kind of a director of a few different concepts, and so I'd move around to different stores and worked all the time. I didn't make that much money, and you get a lot of grief in management and restaurants. Like you get it from the staff, you get it from the customers, you get it from the owners, and it was really hard. I was really unhappy, and I was like, there's got to be something more. So I actually went more on like the professional side, and I got a job in enterprise software sales because you get a great salary, a big commission, you get to help people, and I love helping people get what they want. But I was really unhappy. I worked with a lot of people that were unhappy, and it's like, okay, maybe I need to do something else. So I got into financial services, which is another sales role. I was really good at that too, because I had a really good mentor and I listened. Funny how that works, right? And I had a lot of success. I was winning the trips and all that stuff, like you do when you're successful there. But I got to this point where all of a sudden I was getting like diminishing returns. Like I couldn't win anymore. I'm like, what's wrong? And my coach is like, tell me what you like about your job. I was like, well, I love this and I love that. And the coach was awesome. He'd been in the Secret Service for almost 30 years, and the dude could be more still than anybody I've ever seen. You know how people who are really good at being still can see right through you. And he's like, dude, I don't think you like your job, and you're saying love. And I'm like, well, some things could be better. And really, I love helping people, find their greatness. And he's like, you need to be a coach. And then all the limiting beliefs kicked in. I was like, I'm going to struggle and blah, 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 this and that. And so fortunately, I finally listened. I quit clinging to the known, in spite of what I actually wanted, and let go. And really started moving towards the things that lit me on fire. And, pretty good things have followed.
yeah. So you became a coach, and you took that business experience and went into coaching. So what was it like? What's your niche in that area, and kind of what experience did you have to be able to go into coaching and start to help other people?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. You can't give what you don't have. And, in all the sales roles I had, I was always promoted pretty quickly to director of sales because that's what happens if you're good. They put you in charge of people. And I kept finding myself having a lot of success mentoring other people and helping them just be better versions of themselves, especially like to scale, as a leader and creating leaders behind them. And actually, my first job was with a global company that has a large independent sales force. And so I worked for 3 years as a leadership and sales coach for them. And it was great. I got to pick kind of who I wanted to work with when I wanted to work. So I coached people all day, every day on sales and leadership. And I got really good at it, and I got certified along the way by Gallup as a Strengths Finders coach, which is Clifton Strengths now, if anybody's familiar with that, and a couple other coaching certifications. And I got really good at that, and I started coaching a couple of business owners I knew on the side and a couple of CEOs, and I was telling my wife I want to step over and do my own thing, and it's starting to get traction. And my wife's very safety and security, and she's like, "Well, just hold on. There's a paycheck here." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's holding me back from being able to help more people." And so eventually, she got comfortable and just stepped over and started doing more of what I was doing, and my personal business as opposed to for another company.
Now, in the aspects of what you've seen in coaching, um, with respect to, so if you're working with CEOs, you're working with business leaders, entrepreneurs, what are some of the kind of common themes you see where they need help?
Sure. One of the most common is just people getting trapped in their thoughts and just believing every thought they have and giving it so much weight. And, sometimes a thought's just a thought, right? Like, we've all had that moment on the highway or whatever when somebody, maybe less than nice and waves at us with that wrong finger. And we maybe are like, man, I'd like to, ram him or something like that, right? We're all human and we don't do it, right? We don't act on every thought we have, but every thought pretends like it matters so much. And so people get really sideways on believing these fear-based thoughts. And if you're choosing fear over love, like as a matter of habit, you're starting with flawed information. You're gonna have a lot of trouble getting to the right destination because fear is just it's a natural response. But if you have courage, you act in spite of fear. And so really teaching people to choose love over fear and whatever that looks like for them. And basically every decision that we've ever made came from one of those two places. Fear could wear lots of hats, right? It could be anger, guilt, shame, remorse, apathy, pride, whatever, but it's either love or fear. And if I'm choosing love, that doesn't mean every day I find out rainbows on the way to work at the Unicorn Ranch. But you know what? Like when I'm coming from a place of love, usually really good things follow. So really, when you get, and that sounds a little woo woo, but it's really about helping people just choose their most authentic self. What does my version of uniqueness look like? Because that fear manifests a lot of times in the comparison game. People look at other people and they feel less than, and then they feel inferior, or they feel better than, they feel superior, and neither one of those leads to connection. And so you've got people operating as this like one man or one woman band trying to do it all themselves, and they find themselves doing a lot of things they don't want to be doing because they're disconnected from themselves, and you can't give what you don't have. If I'm not connected to myself, I can't connect with you, and if we can't connect, we're not going to co-elevate together. We're going to be two independent units trying to rise. And that's the best way to create any kind of championship, whether it's a business or a football team or look, Girl Scout troop is where people grow as individuals and they grow together as a team. And so really helping people, connect to their truth so that they can do the same for other people and really just go up faster and further together.
Interesting. What are the fears, the key fears that you find in your coaching that people have? What are the fear elements? What are the things that stop them from moving forward?
Sure. Man, there's like these frequent flyers, right? There's one that's like the fear of not being enough. Like if I get this success, then I'm gonna be found out that I'm a fraud, the imposter syndrome, right? And then there's the fear of like so a lot of people people like in my family we don't win like this, or we've always been this way, we've always been poor, we've always been overweight or whatever the case may be, right? These limiting beliefs that are passed on even generationally. And then there's like this hidden one, and this used to be one of mine. It's like the crime of outshining. It's like, well, if I get this success, then I'll make my dad feel bad because he wasn't successful, or my brother, sister, wife, whatever. And that crime of outshining, it hides in plain sight so well. And then there's another one. It's like like if I get successful, and this one used to make me laugh, but I think I had some of it too. It's like, why do I want to be super successful? Because there's all this other stuff going to come with it that I don't want to have to do. And those are kind of the same four fears over and over that manifest in different ways, but pretty much I see at least one or two of those in most people.
Interesting. Well, the fear of failure, the fear of um, not being able to take chances because they're worried about risk. That's a huge element in people and taking the next step of things. I've been an entrepreneur for a long time, so um, it's been something that you deal with on a daily basis. And one of the things that people think is that somehow it's going to go away when you're successful. Like it doesn't work that way. It's like everything, whether you're grinding for somebody else, which there's honor and duty with respect to that, or you're grinding on your own, you're going to be grinding. So you better figure out how to push through things. There's no silver bullet on any of these things, and the more you get, the more you want, and so there's a lot to it. What You talked about love, and I am a little bit on skeptical on that. The foo foo part of that, as you kind of said. Um, you obviously loving what you do does give you a advantage because you're not quote unquote working every single day, um, because it's something that you like to. I'm lucky enough to be in that situation. There are a lot of people that are not in that situation. People who are not in that situation and have to be able to earn, maybe they have to take a job, and they have to figure out how to do things because they have a family, or and they're trying to get up the different steps of the ladder to be successful. How do you get them to understand how they can bring that kind of love into their daily lives?
Sure. And the word love is like subjective, of course, like everything else, right? But really, it's what I'm talking about is like unconditional love. It's like I love you no matter how you show up, and that's the same like for yourself and for other people. Because otherwise, it's that near enemy of love, which is attachment. Like I love you if you act this way, right? Like I need
Right.
you to do these things for me to love you. And like that's not love. That's control. That's force. And so really, just choosing that unlimited part of you, that's love, right? And creativity is always a little risky, right? Creating a business is risky, right? We're going into the unknown, we're doing something that's never existed before, but that's where you're going to find all the gold, because that's the infinite part of you. Your uniqueness is the greatest thing you're going to bring into the world. And that's like choosing love over fear, right? That's kind of what I mean by that. And I think that so many people get stuck in the should, right? I should be doing this. And like, just because, maybe it's not serving, what you think is your purpose, whatever role you're in, you can always find passion for it, right? And so, what really excites me about this, there's got to be something in there that, you can get excited about. There's got to be those little sudden bursts of joy somewhere. And whatever that is, like, how can you use that to serve other people, right? Because that's kind of the purpose. And so, whatever you're doing, it's like really important that if you're feeling sideways, get the focus off of you, because that's why we feel sideways. We have this huge internal focus. But if I focus externally, like better things always happen. Because if I'm thinking about how I can help you, I'm not worried about what's in it for me or what I'm not going to get or any of those other things. And that works on so many different levels. Like I was on a hockey team one time and we went and played in this like tournament, like some sort of like, I don't know, tournament. There's a way punching above my pay grade. And they're like, "You want to come play?" I'm like, "You need me to carry the bags?" They're like, "No, we want you to play." And like these guys were really good. And I was blown away that they invited me. And I was in my head the first game and I played terrible. It was like I was wearing two left skates and the puck was square. But the second game, I'm like, dude, let's just focus on making other people better. Get over yourself. And like everything got better. I mean, I didn't have a career, a hat trick or anything like that, but I had a lot more fun. And I wasn't in my head and I played a lot cleaner. And it's like, man, that's kind of always a solution is how can I help somebody else? Who can I serve? And so if you find yourself in a role that you're not getting like purpose out of, how can you mix generosity into what you're doing?
That's a incredibly important thing, and I think in sports you learn that. It's a tough thing as kids. You grow up selfish, obviously, early on, and you have to learn to serve others. So that's something that you gotta be able to learn, and it's important in everything you do. When you start to understand that serving others will get you to be able to get you to your goals, that's the key. So, really interesting. So, what are some tools, like tools that you have in your kind of arsenal to help people improve things within their life?
Sure. I think, questions are one of the best tools that we all have, and you don't need somebody to ask you questions. You can ask yourself questions, and the two best questions that you'll ever ask are what and why. What do you want? Why do you want it? Whether you're going to the gym or you're building a business, if you don't know what you want, like how in the world do you know if you get it? How do you know what action to take to go get it? And, the what's like, what am I passionate about, and like that's really, relying on the intuition and the gut and the heart. What lights me up? And then, again, how can I mix some generosity into that? And that's how I get to the why. What purpose does this serve in the world? And, without that clarity, you're going to walk in circles basically and just kind of stick to what's familiar, because that's what we do. When without, clear direction, we usually go back to what's familiar. And there's a great quote, a clear plan relieves you of the torment of choice. When I have a plan, I don't have to guess what to do. And I have a plan when I know what I want. That doesn't mean you need to like, build a 40-point dissertation on where you're going, but you need to have some idea. And so that's the first thing is, getting connected to, what's important to you. And one of the tools that I love again is Strength Finders, certification through Gallup with that, and I've worked with thousands of people on that tool. It's phenomenal because it shows you really quickly, hey, here's what it looks like when you own your genius and really compete and create at high levels, and here's what it looks like when you give all your power away, which might be even more helpful because that contrast gives us a ton of clarity. And so really, getting people connected, getting them clear on what they want, helping them understand what their strengths are and what they aren't, giving them permission to be them, and teach them how to maximize creativity so that we can find peak states on demand, right? And helping people understand what flow is and how to stay there when they get there and how to help other people do that.
Well, Strength Finders is a great book. That yeah, the tools that are in there are fantastic, and they go through things step by step. And that's one of the like go-to giveaways to upper management in most large corporations. To try and get them to understand the different things. They go use Strength Finders, read
Yeah.
this, and then come back with what you are, what you're about. It's a great tool. Um, so become an entrepreneur, okay? Because a lot of people listen to this podcast. There's two main things that come out in with always is that a lot of them want to be entrepreneurs, and the second one is a lot of them want to be leaders, right? That's kind of like when you put a podcast around success, those two areas come up over and over again. We'll first start with entrepreneurship. What are some of the things that entrepreneurs need to know in today's game in order to be able to be successful?
Yeah, well, there's no one way to win. I think that's important. A lot of people are trying to recreate other people's version of success, and I fell into that trap. I have a brother who's 2 years older than me, and he's one of my best friends and one of my heroes, and we're pretty much complete opposites if you look at our Strength Finder profile and just the way we approach life. Like, we love different things, but same foundation, same values. And I tried to win his way for the longest time, and it's hard because what? I'm not good at the things he's good at, but I'm good at the things I'm good at, and giving myself permission to be me was the start, right? And we have like the market cornered on us. Nobody's ever going to beat you in the world at being you. But if you're running around trying to be like somebody else, you're just giving away your power, and you're wasting part of your life doing that. And what? You didn't create this life. I don't think you get to waste it. And just figuring out, hey, you know, who am I? And asking questions, taking assessments, whatever it is. Getting a really good coach is crucial. Like, I don't care what you're doing. Like, why wouldn't you want to be coached? I've never worked with a coach and not gotten like dramatically better. Even coaches that were just okay, like, took me farther faster.
What coaches did you work with when you started on your path? I know you said that you've trained in groups. What were some of the things that they taught you?
Yeah, to really shift my perspective, they just ask good questions and help me question some of the limiting beliefs that I created. And those limiting beliefs are just beliefs that limit us from the things that we want. And one of the limiting beliefs that I had was that I wasn't a good speaker, and I dropped speech in college twice, and I took it the third time because I couldn't get out without it, right? And I got an A, and now I'm a professional speaker. I get paid pretty well to go do that. I've spoken in front of thousands of people, and like, super comfortable with it. But at the time, there was 8 people I was terrified to speak in front of because I had the story in my head that I wasn't that kind of person. And one of those 8 people was my brother, even. And I don't know if that made it harder or easier, but it was hard either way. And just helping me really get a better look at the truth. That's what a really good coach does for you. It's not about telling you what to do. It's about helping you see where you're wasting your energy, blocking your energy, just not using it, and helping you, be more without making you feel like less. And that's a pretty nuanced skill, but it's super powerful when you get around somebody who's excellent at that.
Yeah, guiding you around to find what your actual path is, right? That's the key part. Understanding, getting to know who you are, so you can understand who you are, and guiding you on that path, which is a difficult thing. Sometimes you view and you said this earlier, you view yourself a certain way, maybe your family background, maybe you know that's just how you are, and you have this vision of yourself, and it can be very, very limiting. Instead of kind of moving forward to what you want to become, you're thinking about what you are in your own head. And I think it's really good points you brought up there. Leadership is an aspect, and I've addressed this a few times. There's obviously many different types of leaders, and they come in all different walks, shapes, sizes, and backgrounds. and they do things differently too, and can accomplish very, very top level results. How do you handle when they come to you talking about leadership and I'm in charge of these people. I'm a sales manager. I just sold and I was great at it. And now I'm the manager. What do I do? Well,
Yeah,
I've been a top salesman and now I'm an executive. Oh, I started a company. I've always done this and now I'm starting a company and everyone's looking at me. Well, how do you help them along that leadership path?
yeah. That's it's, so many people get promoted to positions that they're just not ready for, and that's happened to me. And it's like suddenly you're in this position, you're like, oh my god, I'm a leader now, and that's not always true. Leadership's not a position or a title. Like you don't get to call yourself a leader. If nobody's following you, then you're probably not a leader. And I think leadership's a behavior. And the people who you're quote unquote leading, they're the ones who get to decide if you're actually exhibiting that behavior. And I think that the number one thing that mistake I made when I was a young leader, and I see a lot of people doing that is wrong, is just telling people what to do. That's not leadership, that's management. Just telling people what to do. The goal of any good leader, in my opinion, is to empower and inspire. If you inspire, you stimulate me to action. If you empower, you give me the knowledge and the tools of what to do with that action. But you empower and inspire me to creatively solve problems my way, not your way, because I can do it your way, but it's not going to be as effective. But like Steve Jobs said it best: we don't hire smart people at Apple so they can tell us, so we can tell them what to do. We hire them so they can tell us what to do. I'm like, yeah, man, I don't hire somebody to code my website so I can tell them how to code. Like, that'd be a short conversation for me to share my knowledge on that. And there's a pretty simple like influence equation that I work on with leaders. And it's like, leadership is influence according to John Maxwell, leadership expert. And, the influence equation is trust, connection, then vision. But a lot of leaders just share the vision first. Like, all right, go get it. But, the people aren't connected to it. And if they don't trust you, they don't feel safe. And if I don't feel safe, I don't feel like, oh, it's okay to go into the unknown and create, right? I'm just sticking to the known because that's safe. And if I don't feel safe to be vulnerable, I'm not going to be creative. But when you build trust and make people feel safe, you do that with authenticity, showing up as who you say you are, and empathy, and decisiveness, and accountability, and selflessness. Those are really powerful traits that focus on people. Because if you're owning, those, doesn't be perfect on all of those, but if you're owning, those on a regular basis, people are going to feel safe around you. They're going to trust you. They're going to feel connected to you. And then, what's important to them feels like it's important to you. And that's when people will co-create the vision you're putting out there. So really, really important to understand how to execute on that equation. And with yourself too. If you don't trust yourself or feel connected to yourself, you're not really going to co-create your vision as well as you could.
Trust is probably the single greatest thing that's required among leader. Obviously, respect is also one of the biggest aspects. Sometimes leaders think that the people need to be their friends, and that's not the case at all. What they have to do is trust you and respect you. They're going to lead them down the right path, and then you're going to have a chance to be successful. You're not always going to be successful, but you're going to have a chance. I always say that's what you want. You want the opportunity. Give yourself the best opportunity, best chance to be successful. There's no guarantees in life, but that you want to put yourself in the best position. Developing trust and respect. Are there some key things that you think leaders need to do in order to develop trust and respect among the people that they're hoping to lead?
Yeah, I think that word I used a second ago is crucial. Authenticity. Are you being like true to your values? Are you running all your action through your values? Are you owning the values? Are you the same person professionally that you are personally? If I show up and as a leader, I'm like, hey, we need to respect each other and blah blah blah, and then I'm not a good person and not respectful of other people in my personal life, and especially if you see that, right, there's a huge disconnect there. And it's because how I do anything's how I do everything, and like that. It's such a simple word that's so often overlooked. Like I don't expect you to agree with me. Like you don't have to agree with me. Like matter of fact, you don't ever have to agree with me. But we can still be, we can be friends. We can work together, whatever. But you need to respect me. You need to respect my ideas. And one of the best ways you can do that is with humility. Humility is being open to other people's ideas and other people's thoughts or whatever. And again, like we don't have to agree on everything. One of the best ways you can respect people more is learning that, you don't have to have an opinion about everything. You don't need to have an opinion about everything they say, an opinion about everything you think. Just learning to be silent sometimes is very respectful. Let people talk, let people be heard. That's the most fun conversations, right? When you get to talk a lot, right? Because people, they're intentional about, letting you share and connect with you in that way. And I think it's just crucial that understanding what respect means to you, what trust means to you, and how are you, facilitating that, with your inner relationship with yourself. Because the better you get at that, the better you're going to get at it with other people.
Yeah, well, listening is a big aspect of leading. Listening to what other people have to say, acknowledging that they have an opinion on something, and then before you formulate your own decisions, right? Understanding where they come from and how your decision is going to be perceived. But I think that listening part and giving people an opportunity to express how they feel, that's really an important thing I see leaders often make a mistake on is and you touched on a little bit is they will they will solicit opinion, disagree with what some of the opinions are, but don't explain upfront that I may not take your opinion as something I'm going to implement. I'm taking your opinions because I'm trying to make the best decision possible. Leaders fail to do that a lot of times, and then you get resentment and a lot of different things where someone may have been following you already, but now you ask for their opinion, you ask for their ideas, and then either you don't use them or you take your own, maybe forget to give them credit for something. What are some of the things that leaders can do to set the stage up front with the people that they're leading when they start to get opinion, you start to listen on them, and then where do you see the level of credit has to be given back to the people within yours? How important is that for people as a leader to be able to do?
Yeah, that's such a great point that you just made there. It's crucial that people understand the why behind what you're doing. Like, hey, like you said, I'm seeking feedback, and the intent of this feedback is so that we can make the best decision for the team, the corporation, the whatever, moving forward. And make sure that you're valuing it when people say things. Like I hear you, and make sure you work to understand where they're coming from on that, because not everybody's phenomenal at putting their thoughts into words. That doesn't mean they don't have phenomenal ideas, right? Maybe they're just not a great speaker. And so, really, going a little bit deeper on the things they're saying so that you make sure you truly understand. Because people think they're good at seeing the world through other people's eyes, but what they're doing is they're looking at the world through their eyes as themselves, right? That doesn't do you as much good as if you can put yourself in their shoes and, like, man, what are they feeling when they're thinking this? Like, what's the genesis of this idea in them? Like, what's motivating that? What's the intent behind that? Or even taking the ideas that are shared and using those to, like, create idea babies or whatever you want to call it, right? When you combine and, like, build on, because everything in the world's an idea baby. The iPhone was created on top of a flip phone was created on top of that suitcase phone that like a couple of people have those orange numbers you couldn't even read back in the day. And so I think just understanding that like, people need to be validated. It doesn't mean you have to execute on it. And could you remind me the second part of the question?
Well, I think the other thing is that so they have the ideas, but then the other thing is credit, right? So you utilize something. I took everybody's ideas. Not everybody knows what everyone's ideas are, right? Unless you're doing a brainstorming session. But a lot of times decisions aren't made in a brainstorming session. So
True.
you develop, you get all these ideas, then you go and implement part of an idea, or a part of an idea is built into the overall picture. Someone doesn't necessarily get credit for that. How does a leader go and incorporate the people that have given important, valuable decisions, or points within something you develop, with when it may be just part of a whole, right? When it's someone's direct idea, unless the leader's a fool, they're gonna give credit, right? Because they're gonna lose that person, and that's usually a very talented person. But a lot of times, what happens is you take pieces of what someone does, right, and then your bigger picture has a piece of what someone does. They recognize that piece, but then may not get direct credit in that same way. And I'm using this as an example, but there may be 10 pieces that build into what you're doing, right? So you may not be able to go through all 10 and say, how do you go? What do you recommend leaders do to be able to give proper credit to the people that are valued, that have contributed valuable parts to something bigger?
Yeah, and that, man, that shows that you're probably a pretty powerful leader yourself to even ask that question, because a lot of leaders, they want like, oh, if we won because of me. If we failed, these guys just didn't get it right. Like that's pretty much the opposite of what you want. Like as a leader, you should be taking the criticism and giving away all the praise. Like, and figuring out who's you know deserving of it and really shining a big light on them. Lao Tzu over 2,000 years ago said it. He's like, a leader's best when the people don't know you exist, and they when they succeed, they're like, we did this ourselves. And man, like if there's multi parts to something, then what a cool opportunity you have to use reflection. Because when you reflect on experience, right, that's where you get the experience from the experience. It's not usually in the moment, right? And like going back over projects, whatever things that were successful or unsuccessful, and breaking it down, like, hey, here's what worked, here's what didn't, and, like thanks for contribution here. And it's so important that you recognize people. That is so overlooked, but what you recognize, that's what gets improved. Like whatever you're recognizing people, think about the things people have told you, like, hey, you're good at writing, speaking, dancing, whatever. That's something you probably leaned into because you're like, hey, I'm good at that, right? And maybe your whole life, like for me, it was baseball. At the time I was like 5, like, hey, you're good at baseball. I was good at baseball for 20 years or whatever, or some modicum of greatness in there. And it was because somebody told me I was good and reinforced that, and then I reinforced it. And the same thing, it worked, man. If you want something more out of people, then recognize what they're doing well, because there's probably a talent there, and the mature version of a talent is a strength, and that's where superpowers live.
No doubt about it. My last question is the toughest one. Negative situations. So, negative, destructive person on the team, or even more difficult, very talented person, but doesn't understand the team aspects of everything. What are some of your recommendations for handling those situations?
Yeah, and that is obviously a pretty common thing for everyone. And like maybe you've even been that person. I feel like I might have been in the past, when I was all ego for a long time. And, really it's kind of three strikes, right? Like you have a conversation up front. It's like, hey, here's what's going on. You can do it in a more informal setting the first time just to see if they get it, right? And it's like, hey, here's kind of what I've observed, and here's what better looks like. And then the second conversation is a little more formal, and like, hey, here's what's going to happen if improvement's not seen. And the third conversation is like, hey, obviously it's not a good fit, because one drop of poison in the well is going to ruin the whole thing. Doesn't matter how talented they are. If everybody's not rowing in the same direction, it's hard to continue to keep the morale up, to continue to keep people connected. And one of the ways that you can do that, or one of the ways that we do that, is with strength finders. There's a really cool idea called the balcony in the basement. And basically, when you're choosing love, right, owning your strengths, that you're in the balcony. And when you're coming from a place of fear and making all about you, you're in the basement. And all the strengths have a very specific footprint they kind of bring with it. And man, I'll just read through that report with people, have them read their strengths, especially the ones I know they're in the basement on. Like, hey, what do you think after reading that? And man, like 8 or 9 times out of 10, they're like, I think you're in the basement on these. And it's so powerful when you can help people create that insight themselves, right? Sight from within, because that can create a paradigm shift for them where they start seeing the truth about life, so to speak. Not that I'm the truth provider by any means, that's their own truth, and just helping them see, without me telling them. It can be pretty powerful. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes it's part ways, but at least giving them a chance to perform.
Awesome stuff, Kevin. Tell everybody where they can reach you, how they can get in touch with you as a coach, and find out more.
Sure. I spend a lot of time on Instagram, Kevin Keppel. Just come by there, drop a line. I love to connect with new people. Something you're struggling with, I might be able to point you in the right direction with a quick message. So I'd love to help you if I could.
Awesome. KevinKippel.com, you said?
That's
on Instagram, and then is there a website or anything like that?
Yeah, kevinkeppel.us.
.us. Okay, perfect. Well, it's been fantastic talking. I could talk leadership and life coaching all day. It's a very interesting topic, and it's the most important thing, but often overlooked. Thanks again for being on Success for Life podcast. And guys, make sure you check it out, successforlifepodcast.com, on all areas that you can find, Spotify, Apple, online. You type it in and you'll be able to find it. Thanks again to Kevin Keppel for being on the Success for Life podcast. Have a great day.